pastime is going to be continued, which is life after passing away from the earthly plane of existence. I'm going to just quickly recapitulate. We discussed that the seemingly laborious running in the labyrinth of life shall indeed find its true meaning and purposeful end in what is termed as death, but is actually life eternal. We also discussed how every one of us needs to look beyond physicalities, the colors and possessions, even the troubles and challenges, everything that goes on, everything that's earthly and transient, and which we cannot take with us in the 6 feet long space assigned to us after we stop breathing. That the one and the only thing that we can take with us will be our good deeds, good qualities, and the services that we might have rendered. All else becomes history, things of the past. We also discussed that the human soul is the single most unique creation of God, which aspires towards the lofty, gets attracted towards the divine kingdoms, and actually seeks to commune and draw close to its creator. After being dissociated from the physical body, the human soul continues to progress in the divine kingdoms, each according to its individual capacity. We also learned about the symbolic meanings of heaven and hell, which is closeness to God and remoteness from God, respectively. Before concluding, we came across happy news, a glad tiding given by Abdul Baha in a passage from his writings, where he says that we shall all see, recognize, and associate with our loved ones in the worlds to come, in all the divine worlds. So it's happy news because, you know, when we lose a loved one, we definitely grieve. But then if we know that the separation that we go through here in the earthly life is temporary, lasts for a few years, but the reunion promised in the worlds to come, in the life beyond this world, is forever, for an eternity, countless years. So then we become happy, and this certainly is a promise given. I would like to request Julia Alden to recite for us the first quotation, and I'm going to share the screen in a moment.
Okay, yes. Ye are even as the bird which soareth with the full force of its mighty wings, and with complete and joyous confidence through the immensity of the heavens, until impelled to satisfy its hunger, it turneth longingly to the water and clay of the earth below it, and having been entrapped in the mesh of its desire, findeth itself impotent to resume its flight to the realms whence it came. Powerless to shake off the burden weighing on its sullied wings, that bird, hitherto an inmate of the heavens, is now forced to seek a dwelling place upon the dust. Wherefore, O my servants, defile not your wings with the clay of waywardness and vain desires, and suffer them not to be stained with the dust of envy and hate, that you may not be hindered from soaring in the heavens of divine knowledge. Baha'u'llah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julia. So what is this bird? Let us discuss the bird's example. What is this bird all about? It has mighty wings. It is joyous and confident. It soars high in the heavens until it gets to be hungry. And in order to appease its hunger, it turns to the water and clay of the earth. And lo and behold, it gets entrapped in the mesh of its desire. It desires more than it needs. Greed entraps it. Flight cannot be resumed. It is powerless to shake off the burden of its wings. And so, whereas it used to be a resident of the heavens, it is now staying on the dust of the earth, where the heavens and where the dust, incomparable, poles apart, indeed. And then Baha'u'llah says, defile not your wings with the clay of waywardness, vain desires, envy, and hate. Those are the 4 things that he mentions. Those are our enemies. They prevent us from attaining our best version. They disempower us from soaring into the realms where we do belong. They actually disempower us from attaining our true destination so that we do get lost in the labyrinth that we call life, trying to search out for satisfaction and happiness, little knowing that the quest is a never-ending one, because the path that we are on can only lead to a mirage. It's an endless road to nowhere. Here we are, an endless road to nowhere. So the 4 things that are our enemies, waywardness, vain desires, envy, and hate. Let's discuss these. Let's have everyone share their views and thoughts or feelings, whatever. What is, first of all, what do we understand by waywardness? What is waywardness? Can we have some examples? I'm sure you know, so please do share. Let us learn from one another. Could waywardness be like unprincipled, disobedient? Yes, Jenajan, please, please.
Yes, sorry. So I think waywardness literally means when we are not in the right road, in the right track. And by waywardness here, I believe it means that when we are not responding to the directives or guidelines provided to us by the Almighty. I think that could be one way of explaining it.
Yes, very true, very true. So disobedience, not being on the right track, unprincipled. Yes, all of that. Anyone wants to say anything?
I like to add the word conscious,
Please.
mindfulness. Sometimes we are not mindful what benefits us, what not. So being not mindful, don't use the conscious and just go with the flow. We get lost. So that's another waywardness example.
Yes, that's very true. Very true. Thank you so much. So when we are not on the right track, when we are disobedient, when we are not principled, all of that. Then, in a nutshell, when we go wrong and do wrong, like Dr. Jana said, yes, when we go off the track, right?
How about when we get away from the truth?
Yes.
We get lost and away from the truth.
Yes. Very true. Yes. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And then the second one is vain desires. How do we explain vain desires? Desires that are vain. What would that mean?
That's interconnected with this waywardness. When you do have a vain desire, when we have that, like, almost again the same thing, I will use the word not being focused on what your goal is. And you just simply, this is what happens when you go on buffet eating. You eat something that you actually are not hungry. You just see the food and we call it eye hunger, and just ruin our health. And then later we say, oh my gosh, regret. But at that moment, the moment of being heedless, not being focused on careful mindset. So that's a vain, like whatever you're doing is useless, vain. And sometimes we get caught in the trap by probably looking at others, or probably the reason that I paid the dollar amount that I want to make big use of the free, lavish food, whatever it could be, but it's not serving the purpose. So it's vain, it's useless.
Yes. So, that's all very true. Thank you, Nagasjan. So when we have vain desires, it might be, we might be having a frivolous lifestyle, right? And we might be buying a lot of stuff, spending a lot, whether on houses or jewelry or clothing or whatever, and which is not necessary, but we just have a lavish lifestyle and then we get attached to it. That's important because we can spend, but we might not be attached to whatever we possess. But if we are spending a lot, lavishly, unnecessarily, exceedingly, and we are also attached to them, then we are doing wrong, right?
Can I add something?
Please.
So I just wanted to say that you may have vain desires, but you may not act upon them. It's when you act upon your vain desires that you can go wayward.
Okay. Can you give an example to make that clear?
I'm thinking, I don't know, like, I like I like the example Nargis Aunty was giving us about buffet dinners or lunches. So we sometimes see our friends going to certain restaurants that serve these buffet meals, expensive buffet meals, and we kind of get these desires to also go.
Yes.
But yeah, we can control such desires. I think that's us striving not to go wayward.
Yes.
So, I mean, I feel that it's human to have these desires, but what we do with these desires, that's something that can, become, that can harm us, or that can lead us astray. So so that's what that's what I was trying to say. I think it's only human for us to have vain desires, but if we choose not to act upon them, that's when we can stop ourselves from going wayward.
Okay, thank you very much, Noura.
Can I say something, Auntie?
Please, and Julia has also raised her hand. Julia, can you go first? Sorry. She had raised her hand previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go very quickly. Just something to add to that. When I was thinking about vain desires, I was thinking about how our society is so geared toward pulling us toward or pushing us toward vain desires. And it's all about the exterior things. It's all about what makes us look a particular way from the outside and away from what we do to develop our inner sense, what we have inside, which is really the most important. So I just want to say that it is true that we all have vain desires, but we're also surrounded by so much impact about these vain desires, about these things that really don't matter very much, although we want them and we want to have them, but the less of the impact on the virtuous desires from within that we need to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Julia. And who else wanted to speak? Sorry.
I wanted to say, Auntie, if it's okay.
Please do.
Okay. This is my concept of desire comes from. My understanding of desire is the following. So when it comes to desire, people can be classified into two types. Those who are the slave of their desires, those who are not in the slave of desires. That's how we can classify people. Now, in order for people not to be the slave of their desire, you must understand the nature of desire. The Hindu philosophy was perfect when it explains the nature of desire. Desire is like a fire, but the specialty of this fire is that the more you feed this fire, that the more you try to fulfill your desire, the more it will grow. So the way to control desire is not to feed the fire. Now, another thing I would like to say is there are two types of desires. Desires that comes from your senses and desire that comes from your soul. I think what Baha'u'llah was trying to talk about vain desires are desires that come from your senses, that is stimulated by your senses, from your instincts. So you see anything and it triggers a desire. That desire is like a fire and that should not be pursued. What one should pursue is the desire that comes from the soul. And if one is sensitive enough, they can distinguish between these two desires. Desires that come from the soul and the desires that come from the senses. Desires that come from the senses, they're endless. You should never pursue them. But desires that come from the soul, that should be pursued. That's all.
Yes, very right. Very right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And so, what about envy? That's the third one, the third enemy, envy. Can we share something about envy? What do we exactly mean by envy, and how would it be our enemy?
I think this is something that Julia was hinting at. The whole world, people surrounding us, they have a huge impact on us and on our vain desires. So, sometimes we, especially now, because of social media, what happens is we see the lives of others and we are deceived into believing that their lives are perfect, picture perfect, and they are happy. And they have this and that, they're traveling, they have certain merchandise or certain brands of things or whatever, and it makes us feel jealous, feel inadequate, feel that we are not enough, we don't have enough, and we feel envious of others' happiness, of others' possessions, of others' lives. Yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, true, very true, very true. Especially now, because as you said, because of communication devices and everything that technology has offered us, we get to see so much or hear so much. It's like we are getting bombarded, and this wasn't the case before. So it's now more of a test than it used to be. That's true. Some time back, I remember in one of our sessions, we did discuss about comparing, making comparisons between ourselves and others. And we concluded that the best comparison, the healthiest comparison we could ever make was the one made between me now and me a decade back or 5 years back or a year ago. Have I made progress? If I think I'm a better human being, if I think I'm wiser or better informed, more knowledgeable, more inspired, even doing better, in physical, in materialistic aspects of life, which is not a crime. We can do well and we can spend well on our families, on our friends, on our, even people who are not friends, strangers, charitable organizations, or whatever. So if we are doing better in every single aspect of life, then we should be happy and should move on. And, there is this famous saying that people think the grass on the other side of the fence is greener, like Noura was referring to, or Julia was referring to, seeing what goes around us, what other people are, having, which we might not have. Truly speaking, the grass cannot be greener on the other side of the fence. It doesn't make sense. It should be greener, and it is greener where it is watered and pruned. Where it is watered and pruned. That would be more logical to believe. So anything else about envy? If not, we move on to hate.
I had something to say.
Yeah, please.
So what I learned from my spiritual teacher, and I'm applying it in my life, is the concept that envy is another form of desire. It's a form of vain desire that's poisonous.
Yes.
Envy is wanting something that you do not have. And envy is a very powerful desire. It's a negative desire, but it's very powerful. If left uncontrolled, envy will ruin you spiritually and even physically. there's a Catholic saying that envy rots even the bones. That's what I wanted to say.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for that contribution. Well, hate.
Can I say something? Sorry, I raised my
Please.
hand.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry. Please.
I just also wanted to add that, you know, the other thing that I did a Google search about the meaning, the accurate meaning about envy, because I wanted to be sure about where it's not only being envious about someone else's, like what the other person possesses or has in their life, but at the same time you feel resentful towards it, and that resentfulness, that I feel is more what causes the, you know, the hatred inside you, or you would feel the envy becomes a bad
It
thing.
becomes poisonous.
Yeah. Yes, becomes poisonous. I think that's where it starts, when you start resenting the other side, or the other person. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah.
Everyone else has said
True.
everything about it.
Yeah. That's true. Thank you, Safarjun. Anyone else? Okay, so what about hate? You know, all kinds of prejudices, whether of nationality, race, color, religion, culture, language, ethnicity, all of those, all the prejudices create conflict. And conflict can definitely lead to hate. And hate does lead to wars and to bloodshed. So the elimination of all of these prejudices becomes absolutely essential. You know, there is something very intriguing and interesting about children. If we notice, children play with those who do not come from their background, who are from a different nationality, ethnicity, culture, race, religion, whatever, even language. You know, children do play and get to be friends with those whose language they do not understand or speak. They somehow manage to communicate, and they play with them until one fine day, a supposedly understanding adult or elder instructs them not to. See, hate is taught. Children know of no hate. They keep no fences. We believe there is a lot that we human beings, I mean, everyone, needs to unlearn. There's definitely a lot that we need to learn, even from children. Let me put up this slide now. Yeah. Look at those kids. How beautiful, how different, and how happy. Also, you know, it's not just about, hate is not just about, you know, people from different nationalities or religions or culture or language or whatever is different. It's not just that. Hate can also be well directed towards people of the same nationality or religion or culture or whatever. You see, even towards members of the same family, towards close family members and friends and relatives. So I'm going to request Narges Jan to recite this next quotation for us, please.
Possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that thine may be sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. Baha'u'llah.
Yes, thank you. So we see that Baha'u'llah actually makes our happiness dependent upon being kind and radiant. We want to have a sovereignty that is ancient, imperishable, and everlasting, life eternal. We definitely need to possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart. You know, Baha'u'llah gives us a formula for forgiveness. It is straightforward, applicable, and quite easy. He says, when the insistent self, that is the lower nature of human beings, the insistent self, the lower self, overcomes you, remember your own faults. There it is, a formula for forgiveness. Remember my own faults and seek to remove them. You know, by remembering our own faults and shortcomings, and we all have them, who doesn't? By remembering those, we are reminded of the fact that just as we need to be loved and forgiven, just as we need God to love and forgive us, so does everyone else. Everyone has shortcomings, and everyone needs to be loved and forgiven. So as the old maxim goes, we need to do unto everyone what we would have had them do unto us. You know, friends, one of the most helpful lessons in life is to learn not to expect, lower down our expectations. We all need to learn this, everyone. You know, not to expect people to do this or that, or to behave in a certain way, because I would have behaved in a certain manner under the circumstances, or because I think I've done a lot for them, so they must do the same. This isn't kindness, as I'm sure you all know better than me. It's business. This is what gets us into trouble. The starting point of unhappiness and dissatisfaction from others, which can well lead to having an attitude of unforgiveness, which is definitely counterproductive, because that kind of feeling will not allow us to be happy either. So love needs to be given out free, without a price tag attached to it. We engage ourselves when we expect and when we don't forgive. We engage ourselves. We need to break open that cage and let us out into the immensity of free space, and fly. Fly on the wings of joy. Why be unhappy when we can be happy? And that kind of unhappiness is self-inflicted. The door of the cage can be rusted because it might have remained closed for long, but with effort and determination, it can be opened. And once it is opened, the world is ours. That's the aesthetic joy of freedom from expectation. The world is ours. Otherwise, we might just be like the bird, which is stuck in the mud and not able to resume flight. The example of the bird and the 4 things that defile our wings are given by Baha'u'llah for the purpose of reflection. So we might reflect on how to lead our lives here on earth and how to prepare ourselves for the life beyond the plane of existence. Remember the analogy we discussed last time about the development of the embryo in the womb. The embryo develops organs and limbs which it needs for this life, not for the womb life. Ears, lung, heart, eyes, feet, legs, hands, all of them, they develop in the womb life. And because then once we are born, once the infant is born, it's not going to develop all of those organs. And it's going to suffer, it's going to be handicapped. So Abdul Baha said, in the same manner, we need to prepare ourselves for the life beyond, for the life we will have in the divine kingdoms. This span of life is mainly given to us for this purpose. It's just a few years, 80, 90, 100, 120 max, whatever, maybe more. It has a definite purpose, Baha'u'llah says. It is to prepare us for the life beyond, which is comprised of countless years. There's no time there. But if we want to express it as such, compared to this short lifespan that we have, it's going to be for countless years, for an eternity. So that's the purpose. And last but not the least, we are going to have this quotation from Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i faith. I'm going to request Teresa Derozhinsky to recite it, please.
The troubles of this world pass, and what we have left, we have made of our souls. So it is to this that we must look, to becoming more spiritual, drawing nearer to God, no matter what my bodies are going through.
Yes, thank you so much, Teresa. And now we can have the open floor session. I welcome everyone to please kindly share their ideas, views, experiences, stories, whatever you would like to share. Please.
Allah Mojin Khanum and Allah friends. I would like to share with you one of my experience at work when it comes to forgiving others. You mentioned remembering our faults is a way to forgive others. But I did experience another method also to forgive others, and that was Abdul Baha. And I always say, well, if Abdul Baha were in my shoes, what would have he done? And that really makes my job a lot easier, and I forgive. Besides, remember my own faults. I think Abdul Baha is the best solution to our wanting to forgive others. If Abdul Baha were in my shoes, what would I be done? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. May I?
Please.
I think this is what is true, because I had experience that I had to deal with the person that I really didn't like. But the person came and was trying to be friend with me, but I resisted this until one day I just asked myself, what would Abdul Baha do? And I really felt ashamed. And immediately, all doubts went away of what I have to, how I should behave. And since then, especially this year that we concentrated our thoughts about Abdul Baha's life and everything, every time I think, what will Abdul Baha do? And after all that, he's our example.
Yes.
And so that preparing all these kind of things are preparing us for the next world is like, we know we are going to go for a long trip. When you go for a long trip, we are preparing things well in advance. We buy the right clothes, the right whatever we need, and the right document. And especially we go in suitcase, and we try to find a suitcase that is bigger, that can contain most of the thing. And this is the same that we have to do with our spiritual qualities. Not, we will live, one day we will be called to go to this journey. And if our suitcase is still empty, we will go with an empty suitcase. So we will take with us only what we put in that suitcase, own qualities, on deeds or service. So whenever the master will say, okay, that's your turn, come on. So you pick up your suitcase, and then you will decide, and you find out if it is empty or if there is something that you really put inside.
True. True. That is so true. Thank you so much. Please do share, friends. Let us learn from each other. I would love to hear you. Yes, that is a very helpful thing to do. You know, at times of unhappiness with others, when we really feel bad, that's the best thing to do, to visualize what Abdul Baha would do under the circumstances. There's this extremely interesting, beautiful prayer from Abdul Baha, where he says, he prays to God to forgive his enemies And then not just that, he prays for their happiness, that they should be happy in this life and in the next. So amazing. Because, people pray for their enemies, yes. Mostly they pray that they should be guided, so that they should come on the right track, But Abdul Baha prayed differently. Not that they should be guided. That's God's job and whatever he likes to do, and it depends on him. So Abdul Baha not only forgave his enemies, he prayed for their happiness, that they should have happy lives. They should be good. They should be, happy and joyful in life, in this world and in the next. I think that's the highest standard one could ever imagine about forgiveness.
Hi, Margie.
Hi, Mel.
I arrived late. Apologies. I don't know how long you've been running for. Did I get the time wrong? I don't know. How long has the session been running?
Yeah, it started at 2:30 here in London, in UK, Mel.
Oh,
so
I did get the time wrong.
Just to let you know.
It's been 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Strange. Oh, and I really thought I'd calculated it properly. Oh, what a shame.
I think have changed in the UK. For UK, I think it is. Julia, did you say you joined at 2:30? So
yes, I did join at 2:30, and normally I was joining at 3:30. So I don't know what happened.
Yeah, right. So it has moved 1 hour.
Moved somehow. We didn't change time, but it has moved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really sorry. I'm disappointed. Obviously, I've missed a lot, but so I don't know what you've covered already. But I was just thinking about. I like the suitcase analogy, and I also think that before I go on holiday, I like to leave my house tidy, and so I suppose forgiveness is part of leaving your house in order, before you move on, and doing what you can to make things nice and right before the next phase.
Yeah, that's a beautiful.
So putting our energy into that, I don't know, but I think about it a lot because, what legacy do we have? We all want to leave something behind. We all want, and I suppose the best thing we can do is just, try to behave the right way and, tidy things up that are not right, maybe before we move on. So, it's another part of it, isn't it? Preparing for the journey.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful comparison. Yes. Tidying up. Setting things right.
Put the house in order.
Yes. Wow, that was nice. I like that. Yeah. True. Very true. Yes.
Yes, thanks, Mel. I was just going to add that I think forgiveness has always been for me a very challenging, I call it a virtue, very challenging virtue, as others have also mentioned here. But I really like this, what you said, Mojgan, about the idea of everyone deserves happiness. Everyone deserves, we all deserve the same things in our lives, and happiness and joy and fulfillment. And I'm really a non-expert at forgiveness, but I think that this is a way that even if I don't reunite with someone, or I don't come to perhaps love them again, which is my own block, emotional block, I can at least wish them the same things that I want as well, joy and happiness. And maybe just by even expressing this, I'm just a little further along in that journey of being able to forgive. So I really like what you said about it. I think it's a very vulnerable thing, this idea of happiness. I mean, sorry, not happiness, of forgiveness. Very hard, I think, sometimes. Yeah, that's all, just personal.
No, it was great.
Totally resonate. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't know, also it helps me to be thankful to someone. So it helps me to thank them. And then I can let go of bad, difficult feelings. It really helps move me on. It's amazing. The power of gratitude is just the most incredible thing I'm finding. I wrote a summary of last year. I like to sort of think about the year. Was it a year worth living? What did I do? Was it, and then I couldn't help it at the end of it. I wanted just to be grateful after writing a lot of difficult things. It was a difficult year for a lot of us, wasn't it? But then the final conclusion seemed automatically to have to be grateful for so many things, for so many, although what apparently looked like a difficult year, actually I realized I had so much to be grateful for.
Yes.
Spiritually, that amazing things, there'd been a lot of magic in that year as well. And it was so therapeutic, so helpful to appreciate that and be grateful. And I think that, yes, I don't know if these are connected, but I hope that being grateful would help forgiveness. I don't know, but it might be something. Yes. I might try.
It is very much connected.
Yeah.
Mel,
maybe.
Thank you so much. And I can relate very much to what you said, because I have been having the same feelings, about these 2 years of the pandemic. It's been difficult. It's been challenging on so many grounds, but it has taught me a lot. I've gone through a lot, but I have also learned a lot, and I am so grateful. So grateful. Whenever it's a fact that when we do go through difficulties and challenges, we learn, we develop, so that instead of just, growing old, we actually grow up through those sufferings and challenges. And this is what the Baha'i writings also affirm. So, to share just a small, part of it, it's just a very, very small part of it, because, what I meant by 2 years of the pandemic is a very large and big picture. But just a small part of it is this. I wrote this down when I was very much down with COVID. I wrote this down just, to just write it out. And I would like to read it. It's just a few sentences. May I? Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. I said my husband and I were both down with the new variant of the coronavirus, Omicron. And yes, we had the booster dose as well. But we were very ill. And who says it's mild? It wasn't mild. So then I said, but it reminded me of something very precious. My mind kept on replaying every episode of illness, surgery, health problems of everyone I had ever known, all the suffering that was so much worse than my own. Heart attacks, amputations, cancers, non-stop migraines, child delivery complications, fatal road accidents, all of it and much more. And I believe now more than ever how much there is to be grateful for. Not a single hour can ever be taken for granted. Without health, we cannot even think nor decide, let alone do a thing.